Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from Entitled Parents. Story 1 today is by Extreme Paranoia. Mom wants me to change my decorations for her kids. Hi everyone, I just want to give some context. I'm a high school student who goes on the school bus every morning. Last year we had a bus driver who we all loved, but she got moved. Our new driver is something. After Halloween, I chose the Monday after Halloween. It's the day that I would put up my Christmas inflatables. They are mine, so I'm responsible for putting them up and taking them down. No big deal. The Thursday after Halloween, my bus driver stops me asking if I can put my decorations up and says she heard about them from another driver. My father had some yard work that he still wanted to do, so I told her not yet, but I would soon. She seemed mad and told her kids the mean girl won't put up her decorations. I am a trans male, he, him, and she knows this. And then turned to me and said, "Look how sad my kids are." I ignored her. After putting them up on that Monday, I got on the bus in the morning. My driver said, "Thank you for putting up the decor for my kids. They love it." I looked at her and told her I didn't do it for her kids. She got angry again. I had 2 more inflatables I put up last week. One I had just gotten recently. She told me when I got on the morning after, "Can you please take down the gnome? My kids don't like it. Maybe replace it with a penguin? They like penguins." I told her in a respectful tone that I'm not taking it down and that I didn't have a penguin. She told me to buy one. I said, unless I'm gifted one, I'm not buying any more inflatables this year. She got so mad at me, and then she told me I'm rude and that her kids didn't like my gnome, so I should accommodate them. I'm not bending over backwards for her bratty kids who laugh at me and scream and cry all through the bus rides when they don't get what they want. Edit. This blew up. Hi everyone, yes, I'm considering investing in another gnome. Thank you all for your advice. Update. This morning is my last day of school before Thanksgiving break because the American school system sucks and I was going to turn my inflatables on this morning. Unfortunately, it got windy, so I had to turn them off because I don't want to damage them. I have another inflatable gnome on the way, even though I wasn't supposed to buy any more this year. It's a small gnome. I have a bigger one I want. Unfortunately, they're kind of expensive. I'm seeing some people say this is fake, and I wish. I heard from the kids on her old route that she was a real B-word to them, and one of her kids actually slapped one of the middle schoolers, and she blamed the middle schooler, who wasn't even interacting with her kids. I asked her about her old route before this incident. I genuinely wish this didn't happen, but it did. People have had problems with my decor before, but never to this level? First thought that came to my mind is, why are her personal kids on this bus? This is, you're a high school student. Like, back in the day, I would ride to school I was a high school student and there would be younger kids in the front of the bus, generally. But her own kids on the bus? That seems really strange to me. And then I was reading some of the comments. Apparently in some areas of the country, both the United States and Canada, there's such a school bus driver shortage that they'll allow people who have children to take their kids on the bus with them. I'll leave it to some of the comments to elaborate on that. Down in the comments by Narangim, honestly, I'd complain to your school about her. Tell them she's trying to dictate how you decorate your home and it's making you uncomfortable. I'm betting she was transferred from another route because of this kind of behavior. Under that by Togar Sucks. Also, is she bringing her own kids on the high school bus with her? Is it a mixed grade bus and she keeps her children near her to talk to them? Is she referring to the other students as her kids? None of these things sound normal, but regardless, report her. Might be smart to subtly record her complaints to you first because she will try and turn this into you bullying her kids. Under that by the OP. She's bringing her 5-year-olds on a high school and middle school bus. Under that by NerdGirl71. Definitely reportable. Under that by That Old Broad. And pretty sure illegal. And finally, there's a comment that sheds some information on why this is being allowed in some school districts. By GingerKitty666. Where I live, bus drivers can bring their non-school age kids on the bus with them. They have a spot for car seats to get clipped in and everything when needed. They did this years ago because of driver shortages, and it's worse now. Both the US and Canada do not have a school bus driver shortage. They have a shortage of paying school bus drivers enough to make it worth their while. Especially in the States, Kids can be really, really nasty on a bus, and you have to pay them well enough to make it worth their time. Who wants to drive a huge vehicle with like 100 kids on it? Whether it's in the middle of a city with terrible traffic or it's on some back roads in the middle of winter time, they do not pay school bus drivers enough. It's a very high-stress job. The lives of so many kids are in your hands as a bus driver. They should pay them more. Our next story is by I Have OCD and Need Help. My mom wants to check my bank account and I can't really say no. So I, 18 female, opened my own bank account a few months ago under my own name. Before I got my first paycheck, my mom told me that she'd like to check my purchases and how much money I spent on the account. Another problem is that I do have to give her some money for other reasons. I bought a new phone secondhand, and when my mom asked how much I spent on it, I lied and said that it was 300 euros, but it was actually 420 euros. I earn 1,400 euros monthly, and yesterday she asked me how much money I have left, and I said that I have like 800 euros left, which is true because I had to pay my mom 60 euros that I owed her. I also used the money to buy things I really need. I wanted to buy the important things now so that I won't have to worry about my second paycheck. The problem is that I sell old clothes online because I need as much money as possible to move out of this sickening household. But when I sent the packages to my clients, I was too lazy to go to the bank and withdraw the money for the post. So I just used my card. Yesterday, my mom wanted to see my bank account and asked me if I got the statement of my account because I tried to get it, but it says I have no statement. She doesn't believe me, though. I didn't want to show her my online banking account, so I blocked it. I just feel so uncomfortable showing her what I spend my money on because it's my privacy. I also don't understand why she feels so entitled to know. It's my money and I worked hard for it, but the problem is that my mom is a huge drama queen. Saying no will only give us more trouble, but I also don't want to explain myself because I don't need to. I just don't want any trouble because I'm tired. I wanted to rush to the bank and see if I can get the statement and hide them. Today is my grandma's birthday. My mom told me to gift her some money. So I thought about getting another statement once I withdraw the money for my grandmother, so that my mom will finally leave me alone. This situation is stressing me a lot. I woke up anxiously because I have to worry about things that aren't actually a problem. I don't know why my parents make me feel bad for spending my own money on things I really need. It's too much stress for me. Thankfully, they don't have my account details and don't have access unless I let them, but I'm scared that they might force me to do so. I just want her to leave me the F alone. Down in the comments by North Bank N5, ask to see her bank account and everything she spends. When she says no, say no. If she kicks off, then ignore it. You're an adult now. Under that by the OP, I wish it was that easy. My mom is very childish and she'd call any family members and tell them about it. OP, this is just a side note from me. You have to stand up to your parents if they're like this. If she's physically abusive, it's a lot harder for you to deal with this, but you just have to tell her no. She doesn't like it? Tough. You're 18, you're saving up, you're going to be on your own eventually. You could even find a roommate now if you wanted to move out sooner. Split the cost with somebody. If the worst thing that she does is she acts like a child and she goes and tells everybody else about it, tough. I can almost promise you that anybody else that knows her thinks the same thing you do about her. Underneath that by Competitive Sleep 21, I would open a second bank account she does not know about. Make sure it does not send statements. See if your work will split deposits. And finally, underneath that by Husky Wusky OWO. Oh, woo. This, my mom was the same way. I opened 2 accounts, and just in case, I let Bank 2 know that if they need to send me something, send it to my friend's place, as my mother snoops and I set up security measures at both banks. I will only walk in, won't call. If someone calls saying they are me, then they get denied access to the account. Usually, banks will work with you, especially if you give them a brief rundown of what's going on. They have people at banks that you can talk to in a quiet back room for a reason. It sounds like really good advice. Our next story today is by Outer Senshi. My dad felt like he needed to have access to info about me, so I made sure he knew he wasn't entitled to that information. When my brother and I were 4 and 5, he threw us out and our mom out on Christmas after I told my mom about spending time at his girlfriend's house, and she followed up and realized it was true. When I was 7, he disappeared altogether because his girlfriend didn't like my brother and I, and he didn't like paying child support. He came back when we were 12 and 13. He took my mom to court where he asked for visitation rights. We soon found out it was because his new girlfriend had a kid and she wanted visitation so that his child support would go down or ideally go away. After having to spend time with him, I learned that although he has this weird hatred for people he considers to be rich, he himself wants to be a millionaire. When I was 17, I was done with having to deal with him, and I was also pretty mad that my mom agreed to sending us to visitations when it was very clear I wanted no part of it and the judge would give her the option to stop them. The icing on the cake was when I was using my mom's phone one day to get some info and saw my dad texting her. I opened their messages and I saw that he was asking her for school pics of my brother and he was asking her why I was so stubborn about letting him into my life or letting him know anything about me. She told him to ask me herself and agreed to send him pics, but not to have them anywhere I could see them because I was pretty scary when I was mad. I called him and ended visitations for myself. My brother was 16 and not as opinionated as me. As we got older, my brother stayed in touch with him despite constantly telling me how he's a pathetic loser, his life is sad, he's a waste of time, etc., etc., but I made sure to never let him have any contact with me at all. He would occasionally ask my brother for updates about me. I made sure my brother had information to tell him, either, if you want to know anything, ask yourself, or that's classified information and you don't have the security clearance to access that knowledge. Dad would then get angry and say something like, I'm your guys' father and you need to respect me, and if I ask to know anything, I expect to be told what I want to know. There was one instance in particular where my dad and half-brother were messaging my brother back to back and it was kind of odd. They both asked about me and my brother told our half-brother he can always text me directly to ask me anything. He never did. My dad was persistent on my brother giving him any info on me at all. I told my brother that if he wanted to know what city I moved to so badly and what I was doing, to tell him a city kind of close to me, but still a ways away that is home to a few celebrities, and that I work a job to support my ability to live there. Knowing that my dad hates rich people and that he would look up the city, I knew this was a surefire way to get him to stop asking anything about me. My brother told him, and surely he reacted as predicted. Angry, bitter, and jealous, and even uninvited my brother from the weekly dinners they had apparently been having. I did see my dad at my grandma's, my mom's funeral 2 years ago because she wanted him there as one of her last wishes, and both my mom and brother warned him to not try to talk to me. He listened to their warning, but ever since then my dad has occasionally thrown out that he has baby pics of mine that were thought to have been destroyed when he threw us out. We weren't allowed to take more than what fit into one backpack each. My brother would ask for them, and now my dad responds to him, you will be allowed one bad quality picture for every time your brother apologizes to me for shutting me out. One good quality picture for every 10 minutes your brother spends on the phone explaining to me why he feels the need to treat me the way he does. And one small album of exact copies you will have to pay if you make your brother agree to meet with me in person, apologize for his disrespect, and he tells me how to stay in contact with him, because I should be allowed that access. When my brother told my mom and I in a group chat, my mom replied, I don't need baby pictures that bad. The memories are good enough. And I said, darn, sucks you guys won't get to see me as a baby. It's been a little while now since my brother mentioned anything to me, but I know they talk since my mom told me recently that my dad texted my brother on his birthday to wish him a happy birthday. My brother's birthday is 3 days before mine, and my dad has never tried to remember how old we are or what our birthdays are. At one point, we praised him for getting the week right. It's funny because this dad is a deadbeat dad, but he seems to think that he's not one. He kicked you guys out because he had a girlfriend that your mom found out about, so he kicked you and your brother and your mom out on Christmas because he had a fling. And he stayed with that girl, and then he stopped paying child support, and then he wanted to reinstate child support so that he wouldn't have to pay as much because he had a kid with her. Just absolute deadbeat. I wouldn't talk to him either. You're not required to. He may be your biological dad, but it seems like you know already he's not your father. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a spiffy day.